Hoax. It is the safest word in the arsenal of modern science. It is an intellectual prison, a box sealed with academic ridicule where we lock away the inconvenient, the impossible, the artifacts that break the timeline. It is the wall that orthodox history builds to protect its own fragile story. But what if the hoax is not the artifact? What if the hoax is the explanation? What if the label fake is not a scientific conclusion, but a weapon, a tool of intellectual suppression designed to stop us from asking the one terrifying question, what if it's real? Today, we are not debunking hoaxes. We are putting the debunkers on trial. We are investigating 5 impossible discoveries that were officially dismissed as fakes, but where the physical, scientific evidence refuses to die. Welcome to the archive of the impossible. Our first file is the crystal skulls. The official story is clean, simple, and taught in every university. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, a market for pre-Columbian artifacts exploded. Enterprising fakers, primarily in Germany, used modern 19th century lapidary tools, rotary cutters, diamond drills, to carve quartz into these dramatic skulls. The British Museum proved this conclusively. Their skull and the Paris skull are covered in the unmistakable parallel striations of a modern jeweler's wheel. They were fakes, a hoax. Case closed. But this is where the cover-up begins. Because in their rush to close the case, science deliberately ignored the one skull that didn't fit. This is the Mitchell-Hedges skull, found in a collapsed temple in Louba-Antoun, Belize. It is a masterpiece of impossibility. The official story must lump this skull in with the German fakes, because if they don't, their entire timeline collapses. Here is the zero-point lore. First, the material. This skull and its detachable jaw are carved from a single block of quartz. But any modern sculptor will tell you they carved it wrong. It was carved against its natural axis. Quartz is crystalline. To carve it against its axis is to guarantee it shatters. It is an act of engineering suicide. Yet, here it is. Second, the tooling. In the 1970s, the skull was analyzed by Hewlett-Packard, one of the world's leading experts in crystal technology. Their conclusion, they found, and I quote, no microscopic scratches of any kind. The fakes in London and Paris are covered in tool marks. This one is pristine. It appears to have been polished with sand and water for an estimated 300 years. The skull is not a hoax, it is a paradox. It was carved in a way that should have shattered it, using a method that left no trace, to create an object that science conveniently files away with the fakes. We are not looking at a hoax. We are looking at a masterpiece left by a technology we cannot explain. Our second file is not just a relic, it is an image of an event, the Shroud of Turin. For centuries, it was believed to be the burial cloth of Jesus of Nazareth. The official story is that it is a medieval forgery, a painting. And in 1988, science seemed to prove it. the world's most advanced labs conducted a carbon-14 dating test. The result was a bombshell. The cloth was not 2,000 years old. It was created between 1260 and 1390 AD, the exact height of the medieval relic trade. It was, officially, the most famous hoax in human history. Case closed. But the official story was a lie. Not a deliberate lie, but a catastrophic scientific error. The scientists who conducted the test knew the data was wrong. Here is the zero-point lore. First, the sample. The sample for the carbon-14 test was taken from the worst possible spot. It was cut from an outer corner that, as historical records show, had been repaired by medieval nuns after a fire. They had rewoven it with 13th century cotton to match the original linen. They did not date the shroud. They dated a patch. Second, the image data. This is the impossibility. The image on the cloth is not a painting. When you photograph the shroud, the image you see is a photographic negative. But the impossibilities do not stop there. When NASA scientists in the 1970s put that negative image into a VP8 image analyzer, a machine that translates brightness into vertical height, this happened. A perfect, three-dimensional, distance-mapped image of a human body appeared. A painting is flat. It would produce a distorted mess. This cloth contains 3D data, data that we as a species did not even know how to read until 1976. Italian scientists at the ENIA laboratory, after years of trying to replicate the image, concluded it could only have been created by an intense directional burst of ultraviolet radiation, a burst of energy that scorched the image onto the cloth in less than a billionth of a second. The hoax of Turin is not a medieval painting. It is a snapshot, a physical record of a high-energy, zero-point event that defies the laws of our known physics. Our third file is perhaps the most bizarre. This 900-year-old skull was found in a cave in Mexico, alongside a normal human skeleton. It is called the Star Child. The official story was immediate and absolute. This is a tragic human deformity, a child born with hydrocephalus, or water on the brain, which caused the skull to warp and expand. It is a medical curiosity, a hoax only to those who want to believe in aliens. Case closed. But the official story ignored the evidence. The people who made that diagnosis never actually examined the bone. Here is the zero-point lore. First, the bone. This is not the bone of a hydrocephalic child. Hydrocephalus results in thin, brittle bone. The Star Child's bone, while thin, is described by dentists and doctors as denser and stronger than normal human bone. Second, the sockets. The eye sockets are shallow, almost alien. The cranial capacity is vast, and the sutures, the lines where the skull plates meet, are in the wrong place. But the true anomaly is inside the bone. When subjected to a scanning electron microscope, the bone matrix was found to be filled with strange, red and blue microscopic fibers. Fibers that are not mold, not contamination, but an unknown material woven into the very structure of the bone itself. And then there is the DNA. While highly controversial, preliminary tests on the mitochondrial DNA, the DNA you only get from your mother, claim to have found sequences that are not human. Sequences that do not match any known species on Earth. Is this a hoax? Or is it exactly what it looks like? Is this a tragic deformity? Or is it the 900-year-old smoking gun of human-alien hybridization? Our fourth file is a hoax of impossible scale. It is called the Dashka Stone, or the Creator's Map. Discovered in 1999 by a professor in Russia, this one-ton slab of rock appears to be a map. The official story is simple. It is not a map. It is a geological freak, a lusus naturae, a random three-dimensional crack in a piece of dolomite that just happens to look like a highly detailed topographical map. A coincidence, a hoax, case closed. But what a coincidence it is. Here is the zero-point lore. The map does not just look like the Ural Mountains, it is the Ural Mountains. The scale is a perfect 1 to 100,000. It shows with impossible precision the river systems of the region. But it doesn't just show the rivers, it shows infrastructure. It shows a massive 12,000-kilometer network of channels, dams, and weirs, a hydrological engineering project on a continental scale. But here is the part that breaks reality. The geological features shown on the map, the rivers, the canyons, are not as they are today. They are as they were 120 million years ago. This hoax, this geological crack, is a perfect three-layer 3D relief map of a world that existed before the dinosaurs were extinct. This is the ultimate out-of-place artifact. It is not just a map of the past, it is a map from the past. A hoax that suggests a civilization of advanced engineers was terraforming Russia when Tyrannosaurus Rex still roamed the Earth. Our final file is the most modern hoax of all, a phenomenon that many of us lived through. Crop circles. The official story is the most famous cover story of the 20th century. In 1991, two elderly pranksters, Doug and Dave, came forward. They confessed they had created the phenomenon starting in the 1970s, using simple tools, planks of wood, rope, and a wire sight. The media loved it. The world laughed. The mystery was solved. Every crop circle from then on was just a copycat. A hoax. Case closed. But what if Doug and Dave were not the perpetrators? What if they were a tool, a piece of disinformation designed to make a real, terrifying, and unexplained phenomenon silly? Just as the barroom story was used to mask the truth of the Philadelphia experiment, Doug and Dave were the perfect, simple answer to a profoundly complex question. Here is the zero-point lore, the evidence that Doug and Dave never explained. First, the plants. The hoaxed circles show blunt force trauma. The stalks are snapped, broken, and dead. The real circles are different. The stalks are not broken. They are bent at the nodes, as if they were exposed to an intense, localized burst of microwave radiation which flashed the water inside to steam, causing the node to explode and then gently fall over. The plants are still alive. Second, the soil. The soil inside a real formation is baked, dehydrated, and contains microscopic magnetized iron spheres, evidence of a powerful, high-frequency electromagnetic field. This is not a message. This is not a drawing. This is a scar. It is the physical result, the fingerprint, of an energy phenomenon we do not understand. A natural plasma vortex, a terrestrial signal we cannot see. The Doug and Dave story was a hoax. The circles are the evidence. The crystal skull, the Shroud of Turin, the Star Child, the Dashka map, the crop circles. These are not hoaxes. They are data points. They are the persistent, nagging physical pieces of evidence that prove the official story is wrong. The word hoax is a shield. It is the comfortable lie we tell ourselves to avoid facing the terrifying, profound, and world-shattering truth. The truth that our history is a lie, that we are not who we think we are, and that we are, and have always been, surrounded by the impossible.